we go. I got another amazing authors for all of you. And in less than 2 minutes, I'm going to have a really special guest, Jenn Bouchard, joining me. She's the author of this beautiful book called First Course. Not only do I happen to love the cover, it is very enticing, especially for a non-chef like me, but it really is curious as to what actually is inside. And I have been watching Jenn for the better part of a year as she's been bringing this book all around the country to all those who would be blessed by it. And I'm inviting her in. So without further ado, Jenn Bouchard. Hello. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. I can't believe I'm finally meeting you.
I know. I just said to everyone, I said, I've been following you around on Instagram and I know who you are and I know what you're up to. And yet at this point in time, it's the actual first in real life kind of digital style, as we all you are very lucky, I think, at this point that we have these outlets so we can connect with some amazing authors, and you most definitely are one of them. So welcome to, it is actually number 20 of Amazing Authors today. I have Jenn Bouchard with me. She is the author of First Course. She is an author's author, certainly out there in the world. I never knew so much about little libraries. Certainly that was something that we got to travel around with you and see where you took your book all over the country, it seemed, in those beautiful little libraries. And certainly we get to learn more about you. So without further ado, this is our empty room now. The story is waiting to happen, and you are the author, Jenn. We are so excited to have you to create magical inspirations through this beautiful outlet. And like I said, you are one of those storytellers who are an amazing storyteller. You write good story. And before I get into your bio, I know it has something to do with being a teacher. I mean, my God, I think that when you engage the audience, and certainly you've been doing that for a long time, especially the littlest of us, right? And that when you have your audience and you've captured them, even better, story comes to light. And you certainly have done that with your debut, First Course. You guys, it has won many awards. I encourage you all to go support her, support this wonderful author, read it, write reviews, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So back to you, Jenn. Thank you so much for being here this morning or this afternoon.
Hey, this is a delight.
This is great. One of the things I do love about this is that it's always about the author behind the story. And I really love to dig in and get to know who you are, why you've done what you do, and why you continue to do what you do, because you aren't stopping here. I hope, fingers crossed, you're not stopping here. I know that you have some other things in the work. So it's time to celebrate you and your important work. A little bit about you as an intro for those who don't happen to know you. You're the author of First Course, like I said. It was published in 2021 by TouchPoint Press, and has been, like I said, the recipient of 14 awards and distinctions, which is nothing to sneeze about in this world of so many books out there. Her short stories have appeared in Bookends Review, Litbreak Magazine, and Penmen Review, and Little Patuxent, you have to say that for me. Patuxent Review, with an additional short story forthcoming in May. So you'll have to let us all know when that comes out as well. You worked on your second novel. This is a really exciting comes. Palms on the Cape last year, and oh my God, you're currently working on a rom-com. And I can tell you this, having not written rom-coms, I'm looking for those wonderful examples. This rom-com is called Considering Us. So I love it. You're a high school social studies teacher, 22 years. I'm sure you have the definite social experience where you get to see the rom-com exploring or exploding in front of you. I'm still a lover of those old-fashioned, like Pretty in Pink and, all of the 16 Candles. But you live in Boston suburbs. I went to BC, so I love Boston. And with your husband and your 2 teenage children. So you have a lot on your plate. I'm so glad we're squeezing this in before the school season starts again and you don't have time for anything. But welcome. You know, you are one of my favorite authors. I sped read. I'm gonna have to go back again on my vacation and read it slower. But I'm telling you, like, I really did enjoy it. You are a great writer. You engage the audience, and we have tons to talk about this afternoon. So I'm so honored to have you here today. How are you? Did I miss anything?
No, thank you so much. That was the most beautiful introduction, and I'm just so happy to be talking to you today.
No, this is great. And you know, there's something about the summary of this book I want to bring out so everyone knows what it's a little bit about, your summary. I mean, my God, even from the get-go, it's kind of like it grabs you. So everybody listen to this. The summary of first course. When 4 life-altering catastrophes hit in just one day, not one, 4, including the loss of her parents in a tragic plane crash, 24-year-old Janie Whitman retreats to her family's summer house in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. Here she tries to provide stability for her older sister, Alyssa, and 2 young nieces by cooking them amazing food. So clearly, by reading it, you are yourself a chef, because there's no way someone who has no knowledge of that can write this. Through a mix-up with the alumni office at her parents' alma mater, Janie meets a high school guidance counselor named Rocky. I love Rocky. At the volunteer event, and their fast-track romance helps Janie to see possibilities beyond the life she had known just a few weeks prior. It's amazing what an event can do, or many events can do, to change your life. But with her ex-boyfriend and former boss making overtures beyond their wildest dreams, as well as Alyssa's estranged husband willing to do whatever it takes to win her back, the Whitman sisters are faced with big decisions. Despite the obstacles in their way, when Janie and Alyssa are tasked with establishing a lasting memorial for their parents, they just might find the second act they are sinking. Wow. So this has been out a year now, or almost a year. When was your pub date?
June 21st, 2021. So it was a weird time. I mean, the pandemic was improving. You know, adults and older teenagers could be vaccinated at that point. So it allowed me to do some things, but still not a lot of others. So it was a strange kind of in-between time to launch a novel.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to, highlight the fact that, when you are faced with situations that are not necessarily what you dreamt of, like we all wanted the tour, we all want to have this wonderful experience where we engage our readers in person, and that you have to like shift and say, well, what can I do with what I have? You did a great job. And that is where you came up with the idea of going to the little libraries. Or actually tell me a little bit about that, or maybe educate the audience perhaps as to what little libraries are.
I was, so the little free libraries, you see them everywhere. There are these, like, a lot of times it's little houses, but, they take on a life of their own. People design them in such interesting ways. But I was on one of the many groups I was on Facebook, or I am on Facebook. I started reading about Ashley Renard, who wrote Swing. She started engaging in a really big way with Little Free Libraries. She sent out 1,000 copies of Swing to Little Free Libraries because she's self-published.
Wow.
I was like, well, I can't do 1,000, but I could do every state. But I started doing a few on my own, just in Massachusetts, places we would go. But I was like, I had this idea that if I could engage with people in every state of the country, plus DC, and get these in Little Free Libraries and highlight them on social media, also recommend a local indie bookstore in the process, then I could extend my reach. I could extend my readership. Because I am with a small press, and a lot of people, beyond my own little New England world didn't know about the book. And so I was like, well, this is a way I can at least get it out there. And I put out an open call on my own personal social media, just, this is what I want to do. Who wants to help me? People came out of the woodwork. People I have not talked to since high school, who I haven't seen since 1995, were like, I want to help. And it was such an easy way for them to be a part of this whole book launch because, it didn't cost them anything. I sent them the book, and I just said, find one, put it, place it, take a picture, send it back to me. I write a note. All the books that I put in the Little Free Library saying, if you're, please leave a review on Amazon, Goodreads, kind of stuff. And it was really remarkable. I mean, ultimately, who knows? I have really no way to quantify how this worked for me, but I was an unknown debut author with a small press in the middle of 2021. So I had really nothing to lose. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have to tell you that I enjoyed it too. It's like, where is she going today? Where are we going today? It was like kind of looking forward to, like, okay, maybe you weren't able to travel, but definitely your book did. Your baby got to go out in the world. So you
did.
And those people who were helping you are the ones that put the pictures
up
too. That is so cool. So you're like engaging community when a time when there was not a lot of community engagement. So genius. And I want to tip my hat to Ashley and you know, Guerrilla Memoir, because they both are the reason why we have gotten to know each other with the Instagram pod. So thank you guys so much, Allison and
Allison, for hosting us as well.
Yes. So that, you know, I think that it's genius of the fact that you executed and you did this. And I think that it really has extended your reach, because I've seen, because you see you everywhere, and I love it. You know, I know it's past your year, but I had this idea that maybe you would do like kind of like a TikTok with all the places that your book has gone, with all the, I mean, maybe you've already done that already, but
you know, that's a really, I mean, I've done certain things like along those lines. And I have actually been placing a few books this summer in some locations that I've been to. I've also connected with a few little free library stewards across the country who I know are getting a lot of, you know, kind of media attention and things like that. Like Good Morning America has been working with them on a few key drops of books and things along those lines. So I reached out to them and I said, do you want my book? And they're like, absolutely. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks I should have some pictures from them. You know, I've got a book in San Diego with one in Chicago. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more traction with that too. But I agree, that's a really good idea. You know, TikTok is overwhelming me, but I'm starting to slowly dip my toes into it, especially with recipes. I've been posting cooking on there, and I think that as you know, I was hoping I'd have some really good news for you today, but I'm getting closer with some things with my second book, so I'm hoping I can share more. But especially with that book, I think there's a lot of possibilities for things that I can do on TikTok. So so I'm excited about that, but I'm still not super confident.
Well, you'll have to let me know the next time you have big news, and I'll bring you back on for sure. I wanted to ask you about this cover. Now, I love the cover. Is this something that you came up with, or is this something that your publisher
Okay, so my cover designer, David, he's unreal. He is so good. And he has been really enjoying how much traction this book has had out in the wider world too. Yeah. Like, that's my cover everywhere. So initially I gave them they asked me for, ideas and some clips and things like that. And I gave them some ideas, and it came back, and my husband was like, this doesn't really speak to your book. He's like, he was like, what about an apron? And so, we threw that out there. And so they came back with a few other mock-ups, and I actually gave like my, closest group of local friends, a few different ones to anonymously vote on. And this was tied with another one, and I can't remember which one it was at this point. This was so long ago. And I just kept coming back to the apron, and I was like, I think this stands out. I love it. It's eye-catching, and it's not too busy. And so it was kind of a gut instinct. I went with it, and I've gotten so many compliments on this cover.
Well, I mean, even in the front, it says second acts can be delicious. Even your subtitle, it just
I did come up with that myself.
I was like, this is a whole thing going on. You have a whole thing going on here. So it's amazing. It really is. I really think that you hit it on the nail. But even it's surprising when you go inside and you read as to what's going on, because the name First Course. And I'm curious, how did you come up with the title? Because that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. So all of my titles come to me when I'm doing the laundry. I have no idea. It's like the most mundane tasks. And all of a sudden it's like, ta-da.
I love it.
And so I was like, oh no, this is good, because this is the cooking. This is the whole idea of, second acts in life. I'm like, this is, this, and I found a way to tie it in later in the book. And so I said, go with this. And I was, I was very fortunate. I never was asked to change the title of the book. I can't really imagine if it called anything else. I would definitely need someone else to give me that suggestion, because this is the only thing that really spoke to me.
No, it's great. And one of the, I was, one of the things I like tagged it because I wanted to say, because I did really like it. It all has to do with Rocky, because I just love Rocky. I'm curious.
He's a book boyfriend. I mean, he really is. I had a woman who was probably in her 60s who told me, she's like, I'm in love with him.
And the name too, and all the, I don't know, what's in my mind's eye as to what he looks like, really is probably completely different than
right.
The guy who's from Boston or Maine that you come up with. But I loved when he said this. He said, Rocky smiled and brushed the hair away from my eyes. At some point, I think that I decided not to let the bad things define me. And I was just like, drop the mic, Rocky. Okay. It's kind of like life happens, and especially in light of what's happening, at least as far as the synopsis, I'm not going to give it away more. But, things happen in life, it's whether or not you choose to allow those things that happen to define you. And if you do choose them to define you, become who you are, the better version of you because of what's happened, is that part of your story. And I love that. And, I wonder, because this is all about the author. This is your story, regardless of whether they're doing the laundry or whatever ideas that keep coming to you. What was your favorite moment when you were creating this masterpiece? I mean, certainly, it's quite a story you got here. These people facing some real huge, not minor, but you're bringing in romance too. So, and a lot of romance too. So tell me a little bit about what your favorite moment is.
I think I really liked the ability to tie in settings, to tie in location. Yeah. I always think of this as a love letter to Maine. And I don't know how much time when you were at BC, if you got to go up to Maine at all or anything, but it's a really special place. And the people who have read it, who have spent time in Maine, that's one of the things they comment on. They're like, I loved reading about places I've been to, places I knew, places I really love. And I really took that part of it seriously, because I know people do have such strong feelings about Maine. And there were times where we'd go up to Maine as a family, and I would just, take a bunch of notes, take pictures of places. Like, I want to remember this because this is where I met this happening. We took a drive once from Portland up to Camden, where the fictional college is, and my husband was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and I was taking notes the whole time, and I was like, I want to get everything right here. And there are so many bridges. I was writing about all these bridges, and someone recently read it, said, you got all the bridges. I'm like, I know. But it was really important to me, especially for people, because that's one of the things that my husband and I talked about early on, when I was like, well, I really want to set my books all in coastal New England. He's like, well, what's that going to be like for people who don't live here? And I said, well, I like reading about places that I haven't been at. So I'm hoping that this will be good. And it actually has been. There's a lot of people who have really enjoyed learning about a part of the country that they haven't spent time in. I connected with a bunch of readers in Australia, and they were by Maine, because most of them had never been. I think one had been there before. So I think just the settings, being able to tie in places that were meaningful to me, I really enjoyed that. I considered it part of my book research. I really enjoyed that.
Well, you really do place and setting very well too. So it's clear. It's so funny. I was when you're talking about taking the pictures, were you doing that with the idea that you were going to write about it one day?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was.
I had no idea what I was doing. It was interesting. Somebody posed a question on Twitter recently, how old were you when you realized you wanted to write a book? I was like,
good question. Around
37. I mean, it was one of those, kids who was like, at 3 years old, I'm going to be an author someday. It was something that happened sort of strangely. I had finished this major volunteer role. I was the president of my college's alumni association for 2 years. It was this all-encompassing, wonderful role where I got to be part of such a community, and got to know people from all these different decades. And I absolutely loved it. And when it was over, it was just like I was being like dropped into a pit. And around like, I need to fill this space. And I mean, it sounded bizarre because I had, my kids were so much younger, teaching full time, but I was like, no, there is an empty space right now and I have to try to figure out how to fill it. And one day we were at the beach, like this time of year, August, I said to my husband, I said, I think I'm going to try to write a novel. He was like, okay, go for it. I don't really know how to do that, but I'm going to try to write a novel. And there was something to me about wanting to make something, wanting to create. You probably get this. I think you get this. Wanting to create something. And so it took me 2.5 years to write a first draft.
Wow. And were you doing the other 2 books simultaneously, or was it separate?
No, I had once I finished first course and, you know, got the publishing deal, got my edits from my wonderful editor, Jenn Haskin, and I had sent those back in, then I was kind of like, I really need to keep writing here, and I don't really know exactly what to do. I did write, you know, 5 short stories sort of in the interim, because I could handle that. Like they were just, you know, small bites. Short stories are a lot of fun. You're really only trying to accomplish one thing. It's, you know, you don't have to develop that many characters. They're great. I couldn't write one right at this moment to save my life. I'm in a novel space right now. But last summer, after first course was published, is when I started drafting Palms in the Cape, and that one only took me 6 months.
Oh,
so
wow.
very
That's
different.
fast.
And this summer, working on Considering Us, I am 60 pages into my first draft, so I'm flying, and it's getting a lot easier for me. I know for some people the sophomore novel is really tough. I luckily did not have that problem, but I think for me it's just kind of, I had to figure out my process, what worked well, how I could outline a story, and I'm definitely a plotter, not a pantser. So, you know, once I have my outline, I'm pretty good to go. Some things change, but it's pretty consistent.
Do you think that's because you're a teacher by trade, or do you think that it's just the way you write? It's just the way it's been unfolding?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because especially for what I teach, history and government, you know, I do have to work backwards a bit. I have to think about, you know, what's the end point of each unit? Where do I want my students to be? And then, you know, I plan my unit, you know, working towards that goal. So I think it's a similar sort of thing.
That's awesome. You know, I'm wondering, you know, when you wrote first course, did you see it as more than, you know, you're putting out this creative book baby, now you're like this, and it seems like the bug says bit you and it's not letting go, which is good because you're definitely a great writer. I'm wondering, did you see more for this journey as far as, you know, maybe bringing it to light on, you know, on the big screen, or perhaps in the TV setting or something to that? Or was it just focusing on the writing of the books?
Oh, no, I think that it would make a really fun, like, you know, Netflix limited, you know, kind of series or something like that. I could definitely see it playing out in a kind of real, almost, not, you know, real life, not real life, but, you know, something that we could see visually. I could definitely see that. Who knows with time.
So which one, I'm curious, which one is your favorite character in the book? Like, who did you really enjoy writing the most? I mean, they all have a different personality, definitely.
They do. I think that it's hard to pinpoint it to just one. I really enjoy different things, writing different things about different people. You know, and I think this is why I'm enjoying writing a rom-com right now, because you can be more outrageous with characters and things like that. But I mean, writing Meredith Ashton and the bad food, like, that was just a blast. Writing Kate Cliff, you know, this kind of stumbling, bumbling person, you know, with very good intentions, but, you know, is constantly putting her foot in her mouth. You know, but she ends up, of course, being key to everything happening. I really like that. Rocky was so good. You know, I'm
curious, do we know these people in real life? I'm curious. You always wonder. I know we have elements of very different characters because you can't make this stuff up unless you actually have experienced it. So clearly you did it well. But like, who's your Rocky? Is it is your husband boast that? Yeah, that might be him.
A lot of the, you know, like, we take traits of people and, you know, we put them all together to create characters. And you think about, you know, for him, I wanted him to be like almost near perfect, because that's who Janie needed, was someone who was, you know, just so darn fantastic. And, you know, writing Cole was hilarious to me because, you know, he did have some good intentions. He had some good aspects to his personality, but I mean, there was just some things he just couldn't get out of his own way with some of it. You know, and I think that's going to be someone with very slow growth throughout his life.
So we have Chloe on right now, and she is going into the end of middle school, beginning of high school. And I would love for you to give her some inspiration as, you know, she starts a new school year. Certainly you're doing that as well. But as a novelist now, and a very, you know, award-winning one, like if someone is in the arts, the creative arts, what would you offer as advice so that they would explore maybe with different perspective or different eyes?
Well, I mean, I think that a big thing for me, especially because I went into this not really knowing what I was doing, is just having the confidence that you can do this.
Yes.
You know, I think imposter syndrome gets to all of us at all different stages, and just have the confidence to move forward. I think that that's really important. Don't let hesitation stand in your way. Try to fight it wherever you can. I would say reading all kinds of books, even ones that are outside of your, you know, your genre that you're writing in, is also really helpful. I think that we learn a lot from reading lots of different things. And I think too, just, you know, supporting other authors, being a good literary citizen, like you and I both try to be. You know, that was something during the pandemic that I really tried to do, because I just felt like I couldn't do a whole lot else. I was, you know, going to a lot of virtual launches and things like that, you know, and when you read, you know, promote them on social media, review them, tell your friends. I do that all the time. I'm always telling friends about different authors that they would never out in a million years. I had a friend last week who was like, I really want a new thriller. I'm like, oh, well. I'm like, yeah. Brady Godfrey is a doctor, and she's got her first thriller coming up next month, and you should, she never would have known about her otherwise, you know. So it's like, it's nice to be able to recommend these kinds of things to friends. But, you know, back to the writing itself, I would just say, keep going. And I would say 2 short stories. I've told this to a number of my students. I'm like, pursue some short stories. See, there's lots of contests out there. There's a lot of things for teams to submit to as well.
Oh,
and just
great.
You have no idea, like, until you actually put yourself out there, you don't even know what's possible. So, and that is something in some ways I wish I had, you know, kind of the confidence to try this earlier. In other ways, I think I just wasn't, you know, I needed to kind of be in this moment of life to be able to write a novel.
You know, that word confidence is so powerful. And for anyone who's listening, be it, you know, a preteen, teenager, middle age, 20 something, whatever, wherever you are in your life, there's something that changes in what you actually do when you bring that belief in self and confidence to the table. And just the whole knowing that you have that idea that's been planted in your brain, there's a reason for it. Just have the confidence to see it through, or get curious around, you know, how it shows up and what you want to do with it. You know, that you, and at any stage in your life, there's a, you know, you can approach the world, you know, holding yourself differently, you know, knowing full well that you have every right to show up and perform or write or sing or dance or engage in the collaboration that we have with a bit of confidence. And, you know, definitely things start to unfold differently. And I love that you pointed that out. I think that's fantastic. Oh my God, would you have been the best teacher? I think for sure. For sure. You know, any student who's in your classroom is lucky to have you. I was curious, did those students like see you differently once you told them that you had a published novel?
It's interesting. So I didn't tell anyone I worked with about any of my writing until I was, you know, in a good place with it. You know, my couple of closest work friends, I told them after I'd finished the first draft, and they were really excited for me, but they totally got want a lot of people to know. Once I had the contract for first course, then I started telling other teachers, and word kind of got out, but it was pretty slow, and you get a whole new crop of students every year.
Yeah.
And then once I got published last summer, when I came back to school in the fall, that's just kind of how I started the year when I was telling them about myself. I said I'm a published author. I published my first book this summer, and some of them, I think it kind of went in one ear and out the other. Others were really excited about it. But it was funny. There was a point in the middle of the year where a kid one day just goes, "Are you Jenn Bouchard from First Course?" Yes.
That's great.
You're all over the internet.
I love it. That's awesome. That's
kind
awesome.
of like Clark Kent Superman thing. I have my alter ego. And that's fine, and it's pretty funny. But I did have a couple of students who one of my signings last summer, Wellesley Books, which was great, and a few of my former students actually helped place in the Little Free Libraries. So.
Oh, that's great. Your students were in part of that too. I love that. I love when you engage that. I think that, everybody has a part to play in everyone's life. And I love how you're engaging every person as they show up. And Leslie's setting forth, age does bring confidence. That's true. It's kind of like, well, I've survived this far. Might as well keep going and see what other fabulous things I get to discover about my life. One of the things that I love to highlight too, and then you've already shared with me, is that you're going to be going to a Reader's Coffee House great big book giveaway soon on August 16th. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and where people can find you?
It's a Facebook group, Readers Coffee House. It's a really big group, so check it out. You can join very easily just as a reader. You don't have to be an author. And but there is a very large book giveaway that's happening in just 6 days, and different authors will make posts, kind of telling you a little bit about their book and the question, and so figuring out what my question's going to be. And then if you answer that question, you will be entered in a giveaway. I plan to give away 5 copies of First Course, so I will mail them to you, and give you a wonderful recipe from the book and things like that. So please check that out over at Facebook.
It's Reader's Coffee House. Is that where you look it up as Reader's Coffee House is the
That's the group.
The group. Okay, cool. Yeah, go there. You might be lucky enough to get your free copy of First Course. And even if you don't, you got to go pick up a copy because it's really wonderful and definitely a great read. Once again, this beautiful cover, award-winning, 14 awards at this point, and notoriety. We're going to see more of this girl, this woman, this storyteller out in the world. I'm certain of it. There's so much more I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to make sure I asked you specifically, because one of the things that makes you amazing certainly comes from how you see yourself more than anything. And what is that thing that you want to be known for out in the world?
Well, I think, it goes back to the line here on the book, right? Second acts can be delicious. In writing a book about second acts, I found my own, which was, another great part of this whole experience. And like you said, the bug has bit me and I'm going to keep going. But I want, for people who feel stuck and are trying to think about, what else they can do, especially in mid-age, in midlife, some of us can't give up our day jobs. Like I just couldn't give up teaching for a variety of reasons. But I could also do this at the same time. It's tough. I have to schedule writing like I have to schedule a doctor's appointment, but it is something that I really am enjoying. And I think especially with the last couple of school years have been very challenging for teachers, and been really nice for me to have something else, to have my little side gig that I'm really enjoying, because I can come home and, shut the door and spend a couple of hours just focusing on writing and interacting with other authors and readers. And so I would say if there is something that you want to try, see if you can figure it out. See if you can find a way to explore that other interest. I would definitely encourage you to do it, because if I can do it, I think you can do it too.
Well, you're definitely a delight. And like I said, there's more coming from you. I love the fact that you're doing romcom. I never knew I wanted rom-com so much after I've been writing such non-fiction, self-help memoir. So I'm looking for some good authors, and definitely you are one of them. So I'm really happy that you followed that creative bug and went with it and basically brought Cape Elizabeth in Maine to life, because I haven't been there yet. So I definitely would love to visit one day. You know, one of the things I will admit to is I do know good books do in fact change lives. They offer inspiration. I would love just one more bit of inspiration from you to anyone who's listening. And like I said, go out and get the first course. Little free libraries have them, more and more. You can engage with Jenn. Certainly, after she gives her inspiration, I want her to tell us where we can follow her as well, because I think that one of my favorite things about being an author is that I've met so many amazing authors and gotten to know the story behind their story, which has been more fascinating than anything for me. So thank you so much, Jenn, for being here. So take it away. Final inspiration of the day.
Oh, I would say, you know, not everybody's a foodie like me, and you know, we didn't even get a chance to talk about food because we have all these other things to talk about. But you know, find the things in your life that are delicious. For me, that might be a really good antipasto like it was in first course for Janie. But find those things in your life that are delicious and embrace them. Read a really good book. Try to, you know, make it a goal to go somewhere that you've always wanted to be. And I got to go back to Montreal this weekend. I hadn't been in 21 years. So that was something that's been on my list for a long time. So I think having those goals and those dreams are wonderful. But in terms of where you can find First Course, it is available anywhere books are sold. If your local indie bookstore doesn't have it in stock, they can order it for you very easily. It's available on all the usual online locations: Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Target.com. If you enjoy First Course, I'd love a good review. Those make all the difference in the world. But also follow me, you know, here on Instagram and across social media. It's all the same handle, and I'm hoping to have some good things to share with you soon.
Oh, very exciting. So we got some good news coming from Jenn very soon. I know it. I'm not the kind of person that holds things to myself. I'm kind of like, I put it out to the world. This is what I'm doing. So at least it keeps me accountable. So I have to do it because I already said I was going to do it. So it's just like, you know, otherwise I look like a fool. So anyway, we are looking forward to your big news soon. I am very excited to have shared this room with you today, this amazing author's room. And I am very grateful for those authors whose writing stirs emotions, makes us feel. Certainly, this was one of those books. I would really encourage everyone to go get First Course. Support Jenn. She is an author's author. She is definitely collaborative in many respects. I'm so delighted to have you here with me today. I want to make sure that you remember what she says today is be confident and go for those things that make you come alive, like cooking for her. And definitely, if you win one of the 5 free books, you're going to get some recipes, and you'll see this will be really something that you can add. The antipasto, now I just got hungry. Oh my God, it must be lunchtime. Anyway, but thank you so much. Keep making a difference. Keep forcing us to think beyond what we already know to a different perspective and seeing things a different way, certainly seeing places through your eyes. It's been a delightful experience. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh my God. We'll have more conversations to come. I'm certain of it. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day. Until the next room opens, we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.